In this video, I'm going to take a quick look here at the Quad Draw tool in Maya. This is a great tool for retopologizing meshes, especially if they're really complex. It also allows you to make props and things very quickly and perfectly placed on the character, at least the start of those, a foundation for those. It can help reduce poly counts effectively. That's part of the retopologizing process. It's also really good at taking a model made out of more primitive shapes and synthesizing them into one unified skin, especially if you're working with characters. Has a lot of functions that are really great if you know how to use it, which we're going to show you how to do here really quick. Today I'm using this model here from CG Trader from Deluxe Paint, I believe their name is, right here, www.deluxepaint.net. I'll post that in the description below. Want to make sure they get credit. In this particular use case, we are looking at a high resolution model. We're at about 500,000 polys for this head. Great looking model, but not functional in a space like Maya for film production or anything like that. We don't have a quad based mesh to work with. It's obviously extremely high density. It's also non-uniform. The topology, there is none really. And obviously this is just, it fits its function. This is the purpose of just having a high quality model come out of ZBrush. Oftentimes though, when we're looking at very low poly, much more manageable meshes to work with for rigging, you're going to have to construct them yourself. ZBrush has some automatic options, but they're not going to take care of this. You're just going to have to do it. In this case, we could take the low poly mesh that we're going to make and take it back into ZBrush and use this version here to transfer as a normal map onto the other one, which is a great way of getting high quality details like we're seeing here onto a lower poly mesh. But the main thing is how to use this tool, and we're just going to cover it as quick as we can here. So what we want to do first to make this work, we're going to select the mesh that we want to draw on or draw quads on. And at the very top here, you'll see a little magnet. If you click on this, it'll make the surface live. And all that means is that anything that you do going forward is going to snap to the surface. In this case, we want to snap our new quads to the surface here. So if I now choose my mesh tools again, Quad Draw, it just defaults to this little picker here. And at this point, let's do a little bit of mesh work down here to start. At this point, if you start clicking and you create four dots or vertices together and then hold in Shift and click, it will create a polygon on that surface. And of course, every vertice that we create is snapping to the surface. I can hold in Shift and drag and get multiple quads at the same time. So you can see very quickly that trying to create a surface here can be very quick. Now my recommendation is keep your polys big to start. It's easy to start having fun, and the next thing you know, you're getting very dense meshes in areas where you didn't expect it. So again, just holding Shift and dragging. Once you've created some polys, you can, as long as your mouse, you'll see when it gets over top of it, turns into this bidirectional arrow manipulator. This allows you to just move the mesh where you want. You just click left mouse button, and then you can adjust it after you've made it. It's really fast to work with. I don't have to hold in any hotkeys, and you can move to different viewpoints to see what it looks like. It's just really fast to work with. Once you've created one line of a mesh and you like what you're getting, here I'll do one more over here as we turn our way up. You can hold in Tab and then drag on an edge to get a single edge to extrude out from there along the surface. Or you can hold in Tab and middle mouse button and drag, and it will drag the whole line of surfaces. So if you're liking the line you're getting, you can see how this would be really fast at creating more complex meshes. And then again, you can resculpt after the case. Even though this isn't, well, let's see. I'm going to just do a few more here and show you a couple other tricks. I'm not liking how this mesh is going over here, and this one doesn't even feel connected quite right. So I'm going to go ahead and delete a surface. That's really easy to do as well. You can just Control and Shift and click, and it will rid the model of anything that you didn't like. Let's move up to another different surface up here and do something a little bit, do something symmetrical instead. So I'm going to turn my symmetry to on. I'll do Object X here. Let's say we want to do working across the mesh. So here, if I hold in the left mouse button, you see now we're getting symmetrical dots. If you go right in the center and then release when they turn yellow, you'll have a perfectly centered dot across the mesh. And then you can start creating your polys. Definitely studying topology and understanding what good topology is will give you much better results right out of the gate than if you're just going for it. I'm actually being pretty bad here. If I was to actually retopo a face, I would not do it like this, and I'll show you how I would do it in just a minute. Again, just want to kind of show you the basics of the operation. Sometimes working one quad at a time is nice. You'll find that if it doesn't know how to connect something, it's just going to try to connect everywhere. It can be really frustrating to get the actual result that you want. But the more you work with the tool, the more you'll understand how it functions and get better and better results. Again, we'll tab and pull up another level here, and then resculpt as we go. It's pretty fun, unless you're under a deadline. But still, there's probably no faster way to do this. None of the automatic engines I've seen do a perfect job of this. They all take a lot of extra work. So another nice thing here, if you hold in Shift, you'll see it turns to a Relax button. Relax allows you to just kind of ease the distance between between the quads and get a smoother, overall, more even distribution of your quads. So that's something you can do as you go, save to the end, whatever works best for you. If I was to actually approach doing the unwrap here, or the retopoing, what I would do instead here is to actually follow where the edge loops need to go. And on a face, obviously, that's going to be pretty specific. Let me end this and I'll show it to you really quick, and then we'll call it a day. So when you're done, you can just go back to your selection set. You want to turn off your Make Live. You can then hide your original mesh. Control H, and the remaining mesh will stick around, and then you can rename it, do whatever you want with it. For right now, I'm going to hide that instead. So Control Shift H to bring back my mesh, and let's hide the new surface. If I were working on this and then brought the quad tool back, in fact, that's probably going to be a problem. I'm just going to delete that. If you want to go back and rework it, you can click on your mesh, make it live again, click on your surface you were working on, and as soon as you go into the quad tool, you can just keep working on it. So it's really forgiving in that regard as well. I guess I should also mention another important tool here. If you hold in Control, you can add in additional loops for additional detail. And again, you can shift and relax to sort of ease the mesh there. Again, my recommendation would be keeping that light, keeping away from that, keeping it broad, big strokes until you need to add extra loops. Starting to have to add points for all this data gets much more time consuming. So work from broad strokes to small strokes. All right, I can get rid of that mesh for now. We'll keep this live, and I'm going to do a new mesh. So if you plan on doing something like a face, you want to think about your topology or loops. So I know that I'm going to want a ring of loops around the eye. You can start with that. Again, trying to keep to broad strokes here. So something along these lines. It'll jump crevasses and stuff like that too. And that whole, of course, the whole idea is trying to keep this simple. So at least to start. So once you have your first mesh, my recommendation usually is just get your first quad going so it doesn't get confused with where you want the quads to go. I'll tell you what, I'll pause while doing this. You can see where it's kind of struggling to figure out some of the things that I want. Once you get into rhythm and it's figuring things out, you might be able to go through and just go ahead and do something like this. There we go. So once you got that, you can just spend a little time kind of adjusting so you get the right ring, but it just means you're working your way from inside out to get the right topology, and it works great. Very intuitive. I'm going to try the tab technique in this and see if I can yeah, pulling out a mesh like this, it doesn't do it radially. Not sure if there's a better way to do it. You can do this as separate sections and pulling it, or what you're probably going to end up doing anyway is just gradually working your way out. Again, you can just hold in shift to keep drawing. So same thing, you usually want to loop around the eyes like this, and then you can work on how you want to connect them. This is where understanding topology really helps. The mouth, also a loop following the mouth is what you would want. For some things, even though they're not going to move or be animated, better to follow the surfaces than try to just put a grid over top of it. So I'd start with the ear, the eyes, and the mouth and work my way out from there, trying to then follow the jawline. This will give you a nice mesh to work with. So that's how the quad tool works. Quad draw tool works. It's really great, really easy to use. Maybe even relaxing. Put in some good tunes and chill your way through a much more accessible mesh than what we have here with this guy. So you can see here I've just been working this for a few minutes. It's very fast to kind of create the topology you're looking for. You know, circles around the eyes, circles around the mouth, and of course you can test it all and increase quality by adding in additional loops as needed. But again, my recommendation is keep it light for as long as you can. It just makes your work a lot easier. And especially when you get these bigger surfaces, it's a lot easier than to go back in and use that relax tool to sort of even out the meshes a little bit so they're a little bit more workable. And again, it still locks to the surface. Not exactly how you want every time, but does a really great job of it. Sorry about that phone in the background. So that's how that works. Another really common use case scenario is if you're working more in the sort of primitive modeling scenario where we're just working with a lot of basic shapes and just mashing them together. This is a great way of quickly setting up characters with good silhouettes, but it's really bad for rigging. Just the topology here is completely unworkable. You could still do it, but it would be a mess and likely to cause problems down the road in rendering. So easy thing to do here, I'm going to hide the hair for now, is just grab the mesh that you want to make into one unit. Maybe I'd leave these parts separate, but for right now I'll just make them as one. So let's go to mesh and combine. So now it's one complete mesh. And now I can, let's see here, it looks like some of it's low poly, some of it's high. So probably before I did that, I should have smoothed out the head, but that's fine. Let's work with it like this. I'm just going to do a quick sample. Again, you would just make live. Now you can draw on it, go to our mesh tools and quad draw and go to town. So, you know, working across these surfaces, it's going to consider them one surface. Need my symmetry back on. There we go. So the same thing as before, establish our center line. And I'll just show you really quick. You can just work your way straight across multiple surfaces. And again, the more you've modeled the regular way, the more this will be a lot faster and more intuitive for you to create topologies that make sense. Looks like I missed one there. Nope, it's just hidden. I should mention that if you're missing, if you can't find vertices, let me get rid of those. or it's not making the quads you want, it's usually due to your camera angle. So it does care about your camera angle. Let's get rid of that guy. Now this one's really messed up. Could also do this, and then if it's giving me trouble, the mesh is just disappearing over here, so it doesn't know how to solve it. So we can just do it that way, and then again, if you're having trouble, just work with one quad at a time instead of trying to work across multiple surfaces. It'll make far less mistakes. It's just slower. So, and then again, we can kind of flesh this out, but keep it broad strokes first, work your way down, and you shouldn't have any problems creating much more complicated meshes. So smooth it out. Life is good. The third use case I want to point out is it's great for adding props onto a character. So in this case, doing his hair as a separate mesh. I could just stick a primitive on there and try to shape it, but actually doing this as a quad-based mesh first is a little faster and a little more functional and more efficient. So in this case, again, I already have this surface live. So let's go back to the quad-based tool, and I'm just going to draw a hair pattern on here. So I'll give him some big old sideburns, like so. Something like this. You can always add in more detail and then resculpt. So again, super easy to work with. You don't have to overthink anything. Except for that point I just put on there that I didn't like. Again, if you try to span too big of a space with one quad, it just gets lost in there. I don't even know how it did that one. I might just remake those. That's how it did that one. If you see the surfaces, it should connect them. If it can't see them, it gets upset. So, and sometimes it's just upset. So something like this, and then I can very quickly just pull the surfaces out, work my way across the back of the head, purposely not overthinking it. So something like this, really, really fast, and then you can, continue to work on details you see fit. You can smooth it out, you can sculpt it. But the nice thing is, once you have the surface, it's not connected to the original surface in any way, so it's up to you to how you want to play with it. If you like what you're getting, great. And then let me actually just divvy that up a little bit. So something like this, and then, no big deal, just to go ahead and make that head not live. Hide the body as needed. And here I can now just go ahead and grab my faces, and I should be able to extrude it out as a new surface. Like so. Bring the inside surface back in a little bit so we have some crossover. And then, a little bit of smoothing here, and you got yourself some hair. But the cool thing is you get to completely control the actual line of it, this overall silhouette of it, how it connects to the body, and it's, you can paint it and work on it separately. So really, really convenient way. You can do that for like adding a wristband or something like that, or even doing clothes off of a character, all with that quad-based tool. So really, really handy in that regard too.